I'm now joined by Yenal Kucuker. He's the chief executive of the Turkish Heritage Foundation here in Washington. Yenal, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We know that the top diplomats from Britain, Germany, France, and even the US have gone to the region and couldn't solve the crisis. What can Turkey and its president do differently?
Well, that's a great question. As you know, Turkey plays a historic role in this region, going back to the Ottoman Empire times. This is a very familiar region for Turkey. In addition, Turkey has brothership because of a Muslim heritage, Islamic heritage with the nations. While Turkey is still dealing with the Syria crisis on its door, this was sort of a surprise for a lot of people in the region, all of a sudden, that erupted in Ramadan, basically. Turkey is trying to do something differently by visiting the region and maintaining a shuttle diplomacy, as it was indicated in the news today, to lessen the crisis, basically. Today, President Erdogan was in Saudi Arabia, and he went to Kuwait today, which is basically trying to play the mediator role with the support of the United States. And with this friendship, Erdogan wants to make sure that Qatar does not turn into a crisis. Number one reason for that is Qatar has economic ties with Turkey as well as military ties. Turkey just recently sent military troops. There was a base that goes back to an agreement that was signed in 2014. So for various strategic reasons, the Qatar and the region plays an important role for Turkey's foreign policy.
And also with regard to the U.S., we know U.S. and Turkey are strong allies, especially under the NATO framework.
Absolutely,
yes. Do they see eye to eye on this issue?
On this issue, so far they see eye to eye, yes. Secretary Tillerson was in Turkey earlier this month, I'm sorry. And I think this was one of the issues during their meetings with the president and the foreign minister of Turkey. They wanted to make sure that in addition to Syrian crisis, which they're still working on, there are a lot of disagreements on the ground, the U.S. and Turkey wanted to work together on this. And it seems like despite some of the earlier comments from the president and the secretary and State Department, Pentagon, now it seems to be that the U.S. is definitely supporting Qatar. United States has an air base there. They have more than 10,000 military personnel. So it is a concern for the United States as well. So they have to cooperate with Turkey. In fact, Secretary Tillerson is very hopeful that Turkey and U.S. will be able to work together with the help of Kuwait. Again, Kuwait, I want to take you back to 2013-14. There was a similar crisis, and Kuwait played a similar role, basically lessening the impact of that crisis. So, yeah.
And also on the 13-point demand, the four Arab countries listed for Qatar, including the shutting down of Al Jazeera, the cutting of relations with organizations. Do you think those are fair demands from the four Arab countries? And of course, Qatar said they will not easily do that.
To me, they are not fair demands, and I think Qatari officials echoed that very earlier. They provided the countries that were basically limiting Qatar, they said they gave a 10-day deadline, and that deadline has already passed. The demands seem very basically odd from the Washington's perspective, and if you read it, very different perspectives in Washington, even a lot of scholars agree that this was very odd. The timing of these demands were very odd, and the demands themselves were very odd. I don't think Qatar is going to go forward. Qatari minister was recently in Washington, D.C., and they indicated that none of these are acceptable, shutting down Al Jazeera, for example, and some other drastic measures, which includes Turkey's air base as well. Turkey was very harsh on that, and indicating basically U.S. is an air base. Other nations do have bases there. How come all of a sudden Turkey's air base becomes a concern for these nations?
Thanks so much. Yenal Kucuker, come back again.
Thank you.